The Canadian government has strongly denounced the recent increase in U.S. softwood lumber duties, labeling them as unfair and detrimental to both Canadian producers and American consumers. This latest escalation comes as the U.S. Department of Commerce announced a significant hike in the combined duty rate on Canadian softwood lumber exports to 14.54%, up from the previous rate of 8.05% following its fifth administrative review. The Canada-US softwood lumber dispute is one of the longest-running trade conflicts between the two nations, rooted in allegations that Canada unfairly subsidizes its lumber industry. U.S. officials argue that these subsidies enable Canadian companies to sell lumber at lower prices, undermining American producers. This has led to a series of countervailing and anti-dumping duties imposed on Canadian lumber imports, which the Canadian government has consistently challenged in various international forums. Mary Ng, Canada's Minister of Export Promotion, International Trade, and Economic Development, expressed deep disappointment over the U.S. decision, stating that these duties are baseless and unwarranted. She emphasized that the increased tariffs will not only harm Canadian lumber producers but will also lead to higher housing costs in both countries, as the U.S. relies heavily on Canadian lumber to meet its construction needs. Ng highlighted that Canada is a world leader in softwood lumber, supporting thousands of jobs and contributing significantly to the economy. She reiterated Canada's commitment to challenging these duties through legal channels, including invoking provisions under the Canada-United States-Mexico Agreement, CUSMA, and pursuing actions in the U.S. Court of International Trade. The softwood lumber industry is crucial for Canada's economy, generating over 212,000 jobs and contributing more than $22 billion to the GDP. In 2022, nearly 90% of Canada's softwood lumber exports, valued at approximately $12 billion, were directed to the U.S. The imposition of higher duties threatens to disrupt this vital trade relationship, potentially leading to a reduction in exports and increased costs for consumers in both nations. The U.S. Lumber Coalition, representing American lumber producers, has welcomed the increased duties, arguing that they are necessary to protect domestic jobs and businesses from what they describe as unfair Canadian trade practices. They assert that the U.S. lumber industry is facing severe pressures, including mill closures and layoffs, exacerbated by Canadian imports. Despite the tensions, both governments have indicated a willingness to engage in negotiations to resolve the dispute. Ng has stated that Canada remains open to discussions that would lead to a stable and predictable trading environment for the softwood lumber sector. In summary, the Canadian government's denunciation of the increased U.S. softwood lumber duties underscores the ongoing complexities of this trade dispute. As both countries navigate these challenges, the implications for the lumber industry, housing markets, and broader economic relations remain significant. Canada's commitment to legal action and negotiations highlights its determination to protect its lumber industry and ensure fair trade practices. The 2006 Softwood Lumber Agreement play in the current dispute. The 2006 Softwood Lumber Agreement, SLA, played a significant role in the current dispute between the U.S. and Canada over softwood lumber imports. The 2006 SLA expired on October 12, 2015, triggering the latest round of the long-running softwood lumber dispute between the two countries. The agreement had provided stability and predictability to the softwood lumber trade for nearly a decade. After the expiration, both the U.S. and Canada accused the other of being unwilling to start negotiations on a new agreement. Canada indicated it was interested in extending or renewing the existing SLA but did not receive a response from the U.S. With the expiration of the SLA and the one-year grace period, a coalition of U.S. lumber producers filed anti-dumping and countervailing duty petitions with the U.S. Department of Commerce in November 2016, alleging Canadian firms dump lumber in the U.S. market, and that Canadian policies subsidize lumber production. This initiated the Lumber v. proceedings. In preliminary determinations in 2017, the U.S. Department of Commerce found that Canadian lumber was subsidized and imposed countervailing duties upward of 20% on Canadian lumber imports. Final determinations are still pending. So in summary, the expiration of the 2006 SLA, the lack of a replacement agreement, and the subsequent filing of trade remedy petitions by U.S. producers have led to the current dispute, with preliminary duties imposed on Canadian softwood lumber exports to the U.S. The 2006 agreement had provided a framework to manage the long-standing tensions in the softwood lumber trade between the two countries.